Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a two-part series. The video you're watching now is how to answer questions in general. I didn't want it to be too long, so I've broken it into two. The second video is how I personally answered the questions that I was given on my human physiology exam day. Because I didn't vlog the day, I thought it would make sense to show you guys how I answered the particular questions that were presented to me on that day. So if you're interested in how to answer questions like as a med student proper, how to answer physiology questions, just go on straight to the next video. I'm going to give you 10 tips on how to answer questions in general. These are essay questions. I don't really know how to say how to answer MCQ because you just do. There's no technique to it as much as the essay. So let's dive right in. Based on my experience, I'm someone that has changed. I'm someone that had like a whole 180. All the time I used to answer essays like an amateur, like my paper will be blank or I'll write one paragraph and feel like I've written something. And then when I failed, I would be so confused. I was a med student before. Those are my credentials. Usually in med school or anything related to medicine, I don't know how other faculties handle it. But once I get my question paper, step one, I'm going to scan it. I'm going to read the instructions. Does it say answer all questions? Does it say attempt all questions? Does it say 6 answer 4? That is so crucial. Once you skip that thing, it could change so much. You could go and answer all the questions. You could answer too little. Just make sure you read carefully. And once you read the questions, you also know how you're going to decide the ones you're going to answer. In the case where they say 6 answer 5, once you scan through the questions, that's not going to determine how you're going to answer it. I hope you know that. You're just sticking, I'll answer question 1, I'll answer question 3. I don't know question 4, I'll answer question 5. That's not what you're going to do. So the first step, make sure you read your instructions. Make sure you scan through, breathe out, breathe in, don't be overwhelmed. I also say read your instructions. Your instructions will tell you how long you have for that exam. And that's how you're going to share. That's how you're going to share your time. Once you see 5 questions, answer 4. Time, 2 hours. Automatically, you think you have 30 minutes for each question. Actually, no. You need to have miscellaneous time. You need to have time for correction. You need to have time for revision. You need to have time for planning, okay? So once I see that I have 4 questions, and 2 hours, I give myself 20 minutes on each question. I've taken off 10 minutes of each question that I will use to go back, to revise, to draw something, fill in something. Always give yourself less time than you think you have to answer a question. I promise you it's going to change so much. If you have 5 questions, they give you 2 hours, and you think you have 25 minutes for each question. No, you don't. You have like 15 minutes or 20 minutes for each question. If we're being very honest, that's going to save you a lot. When it comes to OBJ, I will say this about OBJ and MCQ or like subjectives or whatever. Once I'm answering MCQs, I am like if I reach question 1, I'm sure of it, I answer. Question 2, I'm not too sure. I'm not going to spend time on question 2 thinking about weighing my options. I'll move straight to the next questions. When I do my MCQ, I go straight and answer all the ones I know 100% first. Because if you spend your time dwelling on the one you're not sure of, before you know, your time will just be going. And there's so many questions ahead of you that you could know the answer 100% that you skipped out on. So I will say this about MCQ and OBJ. Answer everything you know first, then you come back from the beginning and start trying to attempt the ones you're not too sure about. Step 3, this is my most important point for essays, okay? With a pencil on the back of your answer sheet or on your question paper, with a pencil, you're going to start attempting each question. This is going to take 5 minutes. It's not a lot, I promise. Question 1, you begin to write down everything you know, the headings of everything you know. If they tell you to discuss blood group now, talking about physiology, first I'm going to write introduction, history, Landsteiner law, AB, ABO. I'll just be writing what I think I know. Universal donor, universal recipient. In fact, the research, like erythroblastosis fetalis, everything I think, I'll just be writing it down, just be downloading in small points. You're going to do that for each question. Now, what this does for you is that it helps you know which question you actually know the most. This is a question of pick a few out of the whole they've given you. Even if it's an attempt all questions, it's going to help you. Just download, just be writing all the headings. Beside each question, write all the headings that you can remember. And if it's a question of pick some, that's going to help you know. You see, oh, option A, I actually know. Sorry, you see question 1, you know, I actually wrote down a lot on question 1. I actually know more things to write on question 1. Question 2, you see that you weren't able to write down as much headlines. What am I saying headlines? as much headings as you did for question 3, you eliminate it. Number 3 is my favorite as well because it prevents disorganization and cancelling. Once you've written that outline, that little, those small heading, you know what you're going to write. You're going to be referring back to it. If you are answering question 3, you go back to your question paper where you wrote the headline, you know, oh, next one I'm supposed to write is this. Because sometimes if you're answering a question just like that with no prior guideline, you just be writing as it comes to you. And sometimes when you're answering questions, things need to come in order. You can't mention applied physiology before you mention something very important like causes or symptoms. It's not going to make sense. So writing down your headings is going to help you to be very organized, and you can always refer to it even if you get lost at some point. And like I said, this should not take you more than 5 minutes. I promise you it's not going to take long at all. Number 4, I beg you to obey instructions. If they say attempt all, please attempt all. That little thing that you think is too small, it might get you like 1 or 2 marks. If they say attempt all, please attempt all. Half is better than 0. 0.4 is better than 0. 1 is better than 0. They say attempt all. Just write whatever you know. At least attempt. You know some very well. You don't know some very well. Attempt it. Don't overdo. If they say answer 4, you go and answer 5. And you now think the lecturer will pick the one he wants. Some lecturers will vex and cancel the 2 questions. Like, don't play like that. I beg you. It's not, there's no prize for that. Don't even try it because you don't know what your lecturer might be on that day when he's marking your script. Now, this point 3 is so important because we're getting to another point with it. I like to use those headings when I'm actually answering my questions because it makes my lecturer think like I really know what I'm doing. There's so much of, let me tell you, you know, your eyes eat first. The same with the lecturer, your eyes mark first. If you open a script and you're just seeing so much organization, like there's spacing, there's heading, you automatically feel like this student knows exactly what he or she is talking about. So those headings that I wrote down at the back of my paper, I'm going to use them in my questions. I'll start with introduction. If we're talking about like a disease or something, I will talk about causes, symptoms, applied physio, but just know that there must be headings. Headings must be there. Organization must be visible. It's like it's so pleasing to the eye once you open the script and you're seeing the script is full, and not only is it full, it's not anyhow. It makes the lecturer mark so much easier, and automatically he will just feel better about your script, and it will not be hard for him to do his biro like this. You know, doing your biro like this is easier than doing it like this, so it won't be hard for him to just be taken away. Now, you might also say, oh, we're using headings. What if there isn't enough to write on said headings? It depends on your time, okay? If my time is limited, if I've weighed it, I've scaled it, and I see that I don't have that much time, I'm going to keep like my paragraphs very little, very brief. If I say introduction, small introduction. But if I know that I have time, I'm going to pad it. Another way to pad things to make it look like a lot is by using a lot of synonyms and phrases. And I mean that by like filling words. They ask you what is something about urine. Now, I'll just give you an example. Instead of saying it is the formation of, you say it is the process by which something is formed. Just add in a little extra words. I know you could make it straight to the point, but just replace certain words with phrases. Replace stuff with, I'm sure there's a video or there's a way to do this, but I know you know what I'm talking about. It is a process by which it is a, like, just make you're saying the same thing, but you're just using more words. If you want to really pack and make it look lengthy, well, if you feel like the definition of something is too short, what's in your note is too short, just pad it with synonyms and phrases and it will look like a lot. Number 6, as long as a diagram or a schematic representation of something exists, you are going to draw it. I can't tell you how many marks diagrams bring for you. If a diagram of something exists, I am going to draw it personally. As long as the diagram exists, I've seen this diagram, I've studied this diagram, I must draw it. It adds so much, even just arrow. Even if you're doing a schematic, hypothalamus to pituitary to just arrow. As long when you open somebody's paper and you see that little scheme or something, like it makes it look more, do you know what I'm saying? Like it makes it look like, okay, you could be saying the same thing. You could be drawing the same thing that you just wrote, but it just makes it look more professional, makes it look like you really know what you're doing in this school. So as long as the diagram exists, sometimes I even draw 2 diagrams in one question because I want my mark in full. Like I want my mark in full. This should have been the first thing I said, but filling your information should be the first thing you do. Please, so many times it's happened to me. Imagine me, I'll be writing extra sheets, full front and back. I went to submit. I realized that my details were not on my answer sheet. Like, all that work for nothing. So please, before you start, this should have been point one. Before you start anything, make sure you filled everything you're supposed to fill. Make sure you sign your attendance. Don't forget that. Make sure you fill everything correctly, because that could change a lot for you. Make sure it's correct. Make sure you didn't miss out a number in your identification number or your matric number. I don't know how it is. It would be so ironic that that's what's going to give you a hiccup, that you didn't fill your answer booklet. Don't be afraid to space your work out. If you ask for 100 answer sheets, they will give you 100 answer sheets. Don't be jam packing. You feel like the space is too. I did that in one time, and it cost me a very tiny little mark, because I tried to use only 2 papers, and I even wrote a line dividing it so that I will have more space. He was like, you could just ask for more paper and I would have given it to you. So you don't want your lecturer to open your book and be like, your eyes eat first, like your eyes mark first. So if he sees it, he's looking so, he's like, who is going to have the time to even read this one? So make sure you space, like leave lines. After you do one heading introduction, you leave a space. Move to the next one, leave a space. Make sure you're leaving, make sure when you open it, you don't have to strain your eyes to read it. If you ask for extra sheets, they're going to give you extra sheets. Someone like me, I always have a stapler in my stationery purse, a nice little stapler. It's not that expensive. You should also invest in one of these if you're someone that you use extra sheets a lot, so that you just staple it before you hear a story that your paper flew away. Especially if you're in a federal school, your paper is easy to lose because there's so many of them, unlike us where there are very few. So if you don't staple, nothing will happen because they will find it. But yeah, make sure you are spacing out. Make sure you are making it look as beautiful as possible. You might think there is no time. I promise you there's time. Do you know that when I'm even doing my exam, I use different colors of biro, or let's say I'm writing in black now, I'm going to use a blue pen to underline my headings, or a blue pen to write my headings, just so that there's just that organization. Organization just choke. Like, I don't know. Even if I'm not getting points for what I wrote, even if I know I wrote nonsense, at least I know that it looks so pleasing to the eye. For your headings, use uppercase. Make sure your punctuations are on point. Make sure it is not hard for your lecturer to comprehend. Some lecturers, they quick fix. You don't know what's going on in their homes, in their personal lives. They'll come and take their anger out on your script. You want to eliminate every possibility of that possible. Is that a point? Number 9, I don't know why I need to tell you guys this, but even if they use abbreviation in your notes, do not come and use any abbreviation or acronym for your lecturer. The only condition which you should use any acronym or abbreviation is if you're going to open a parenthesis, open a bracket, and write the meaning of that abbreviation you just used. Like, even in physiology, no matter how many times I see RBC, I can't come and write RBC in my exam. I'm going to write red blood cells or erythrocytes, because RBC, who is RBC? Who is RBC? That's what they will ask you. Who is that? What if I don't know who RBC is? So little things like that, they'll just circulate minus half mark. Some lecturers can be so logical. Let's put it like that. So please, any acronym abbreviation that you don't plan to explain what it means, don't use it. And number 10, I'm going to say, make sure you ask questions. Do not, even if you need to ask 100 questions, do not be ashamed to ask any question. You don't want to feel like nobody's asking. If I ask, it will look like, I don't know it. They're not joining you and anybody together. You did not pay anybody's school fees, they did not pay your own. So if you don't understand something, even if it seems as clear as day, or even, I hate when a lecturer says, this question is clear now. If you don't understand something, just ask. Make that attempt to ask, because it has helped me a lot. I'll ask, like, I don't understand this number 2, like, what are you trying to say? If they want to tell you, they will tell you. If they don't want to tell you, they will not. And it can help the class at large, because he will now say something that maybe everybody was thinking and they didn't want to ask as well. So don't be afraid to ask. And sometimes, especially in your MCQ, don't be afraid to ask, because a lot of times you find out that it's a wrong question, or there's 2 answers, or the answer is not even there at all, and you get like a bonus or something. So please don't actually be afraid to ask. That brings me to the end of my video. Those are 10 things that I feel like help students when it comes to answering your questions and how you can answer your questions the best. Essays, especially if you're a med student or physiology student, anatomy student, radiology, anything like that. I don't know. On the topic of time, Your time, the time that they wrote in the instructions, will give you an idea of how they want you to answer the questions. I hope that makes sense. If you have um 10 questions in your theory, they give you 1 hour. There is no time to be writing everything you know in your notes. It's not even possible. And you know that your lecturer knows it's not possible. If they give you 10 questions or any amount of questions and they say write a short note on, briefly discuss, in fact mention your time. That's why I say it's so important for you to open Abi study your instructions very properly, because the time they'll give you there is an indication of how they want you to answer. In med school, physiology, anatomy, radiography, anything in the medical health field, when I see discuss, mention, list, briefly explain, I'm not briefly explaining anything. I'm not discussing anything with you, sir. I'm going to write everything that I know, because these lecturers will say, write short notes on, but they know what they're looking for. That small paragraph you're writing is not going to get you 10 marks. That small paragraph you're writing is not going to get you even 5 marks. So if you know what's good for you, as long as you have the time, make sure you're writing as much as you can with your headings. But then the amount of time that they give you in the instructions will let you know what they're actually looking for. A lecturer can give you 10 theory questions, 1 hour. There's no way you're going to write heaven and earth. If he says write a short note, you have 1 hour for 10 questions, you better write a short note, because it's better that you attempt all the questions and write something on all those 10 questions in the hour than you're forming, you know, everything in one question and then you miss out on answering like 2 or 3 because the time has elapsed. If you see 2 hours, a few questions, you know that they want a lot from you. Whether they said short note or not, you know that they are looking for a lot. If you see 1 hour, if you see 45 minutes of, my dear, rush, write what you can. There's no need to be writing a journal for him. Some lecturers know that they don't expect long books from you after they give 45 minutes. So just get straight to the point. Because on my next video, you see that I'm not someone that gets straight to the point. But once I see the time, and I know that the time requires me to get straight to the point, I'm getting straight to the point. These 10 tips that I have, I hope they're going to help you somehow. It's such a general thing. Like I said, I'm going to be answering like physiology questions, how I personally answered it, the ones that were given to me. And I hope this does something for you. I hope this exam series is doing something for you, because after July, I'm not talking about school anymore. I want to talk about money and YouTube and lifestyle and feminine stuff and just different things. So this is really, I really want to help students before they take that exam, before they go on their summer break, yada, yada, yada. So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, and make sure you leave a comment if this video has done something for you, or if you can relate, or you want to share an experience or some kind of advice or tip that people can also use. It will go such a long way, because I don't know everything. I only know what's in my head, and I have only one head. So please help other people out. Leave a comment, share some tips, like, subscribe, and have a beautiful day. Or see you in the next video. Whichever one comes first, I don't know.